When we grow up, relationships change. But what happens when a wife, after decades of marriage, starts to feel distant from her husband? What makes a woman who once loved her partner slowly withdraw, lose interest, and feel indifferent? This is a reality that many couples face, but few talk about. The slow fading of affection, the subtle changes in behavior, the simmering disappointment that builds up over time. This doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of unmet needs, unspoken words, and overlooked moments. The reason isn't always what you think. It's not about falling out of love, but about realizing what love is supposed to feel like. And often, the reason is very practical. Today, we'll explore why women, as they grow older, begin to feel differently about their husbands and what can be done to change that before it's too late. If you're a husband, a wife, or someone curious about long-term relationships, stay with me until the end of the video. This could change the way you see love, aging, and marriage forever. Number 1, the emotional burden becomes too heavy. In most marital relationships, women often play the role of the emotional caretaker for the entire family. It's not just about remembering special days like birthdays or anniversaries. They're also responsible for organizing family gatherings, planning trips, and even keeping track of medical schedules and doctor appointments for family members. This work, though not clearly visible, is extremely time-consuming and energy-draining. And as time passes, especially as they grow older, these women begin to realize that their constant worry and assumption of this role has made them feel exhausted, stressed, and sometimes lonely. The lack of understanding from their partner. When most men fail to recognize the invisible burdens their wives are bearing, deepens the women's feelings of being unappreciated. They start to feel like they're the only ones carrying the relationship, while the husband is merely a bystander, simply existing in it without truly contributing to the efforts of maintaining the family's stability and happiness. Number 2, lack of meaningful communication. In the early years of a relationship, communication is always the bridge that creates closeness and understanding between two people. Curious questions like, "How was your day?" or "What are you thinking?" help build deep conversations, making each person feel cared for and emotionally connected. However, as time passes and routines become stale, those questions gradually turn into meaningless words or disappear altogether. Communication between husband and wife becomes shallow questions like, "Have you had dinner?" or "Are you going anywhere tomorrow?" lacking real interest in each other's emotions and mental states. For women, this lack of meaningful communication is not just an absence of conversations, but a feeling of being forgotten, misunderstood, and unloved in a profound way. This feeling gradually turns into an emotional wound as they long for real conversations, for moments of emotional connection with their partner. But instead, they receive only silence or vague responses. Number 3, the burden of housework never ends. Even in modern society, housework has been more equally shared between husband and wife, but in reality, there is still a major inequality when women have to shoulder most of this work. Studies have shown that even in retirement, women still do the majority of housework. This creates an invisible burden, and as they grow older, the fatigue becomes more apparent. Small tasks like washing dishes, doing laundry, and cleaning gradually become emotional burdens, as they are not just physical tasks, but also represent the blame and resentment about the unfairness within the family. When these tasks are not shared fairly, women begin to feel that they are being abandoned in their own homes. They ask themselves, "Why do I have to do all of this alone?" While my partner doesn't feel any responsibility or need to change. Number 4, she outgrows the relationship, but he doesn't. Women, especially as they enter more mature stages in life, often seek personal growth. They want to explore the world, travel, learn new things, or simply develop personal interests that they didn't have the chance to pursue before. However, when a husband does not want to change or grow together, the gap between the two becomes larger and larger. The woman may feel that she is outgrowing the relationship, maturing and evolving while her husband remains stagnant. This not only increases the emotional distance between them, but also makes the woman feel lonely in the very relationship they built together. Number 5, loss of physical and emotional intimacy. Intimacy in a relationship is not only about physical closeness, but also emotional connection. When a woman doesn't feel loved, no longer receives attention from her partner, intimacy gradually disappears. This creates an indescribable emptiness inside the woman. She not only loses physical attraction, but also feels the love in the relationship is fading. When there is no more intimacy, no longer a feeling of being desired and loved, women begin to emotionally withdraw. They no longer want to share their thoughts, feelings, or personal desires with their partner. The indifference and lack of care from the husband create a deep crack in the relationship, causing the emotional bond between the two to gradually disappear. Number 6, retirement changes everything, but not always for the better. When entering the retirement phase, many people think this is the ideal time to relax, travel, and enjoy peaceful moments together after a busy life. But in reality, this can lead to stressful changes in the relationship, especially for married couples. The sudden transition from work to rest is not always smooth. When a man reaches retirement age, he often doesn't have a clear plan to replace work with new activities. He goes from being a busy man with daily responsibilities to a no-work phase without knowing what he will do. This is a major shock for many, especially if they are not mentally prepared or lack personal hobbies outside of work. The wife, who is already used to shouldering many responsibilities in the family, now has to take on a new burden, becoming her husband's entertainer and companion. In reality, the husband expects his wife to fill his void by creating shared activities, traveling, or simply chatting, without realizing that the wife is also facing changes in her own time and emotions. When a woman can no longer maintain her freedom or outside relationships like before, she may feel trapped in a life that wasn't her original choice. This easily leads to feelings of suffocation, lack of freedom, and even quiet resentment. Number 7, she no longer feels heard or valued. The feeling of being forgotten in a relationship is one of the deepest issues women face in long-term marriages. After years of being the emotional pillar of the family, many women begin to feel that they are no longer appreciated or listened to. They do not ask for grand gestures, promises, or lavish gifts. What they long for is genuine attention and true listening from their partner. When a woman cannot share her feelings and deep thoughts without receiving any response from her husband, she begins to feel unimportant in his life. This not only makes her sad, but also creates a large emotional distance, causing love to be gradually replaced by indifference. And once a woman feels that her efforts are in vain, she will slowly withdraw, not out of anger, but because she feels hurt and no longer wants to try. This withdrawal can be very quiet. Sometimes the wife says nothing, but her actions and attitude clearly reflect a change in mood. And when emotions are no longer reciprocated, love is not just the absence of care, but a gradual shift into resentment. Number 8, she realizes life is short and she wants more. As age increases, time becomes a very different concept. A woman begins to perceive more clearly the finiteness of life, especially when faced with the death of friends and loved ones. Funerals and repeated farewells make her realize that each day of life is a precious gift, and this moment can mark a profound shift in how she views marriage and life. It starts with questions like, am I happy? Do I feel loved? Questions that are not just simple curiosity, but a search for new meaning in life. If the answers do not satisfy her, if she feels she has overlooked too many important things in life to maintain a relationship that lacks understanding and respect, she will no longer have the patience to continue this journey. As women enter the twilight of their lives, they often no longer want to spend time fighting or seeking attention. Instead, they begin to search for peace of mind and a life that aligns with their true desires. If the husband does not change and fails to meet his wife's emotional and spiritual needs, she will withdraw, not only emotionally, but sometimes physically as well. She will find ways to protect herself from further hurt, and once she decides to withdraw, it is very difficult to return. This is why some women, after decades of marriage, stop trying. Not because they don't care, but because they realize they deserve more than just to exist in someone else's life. As we enter the later years of life, relationships are not about grand romantic gestures. They are about presence, understanding, and respect. When a woman begins to feel distant from her husband, it is rarely because she has simply fallen out of love. More often, it's because she no longer feels seen, appreciated, or valued. This is the story of many marriages. Love doesn't disappear in one dramatic moment. It fades in unnoticed ones, in the moments when a woman feels unheard, in the years she carries the emotional weight alone, in the time she needs support but finds only silence. But does it have to be this way? No. Love is a choice, and just as it can fade, it can also be rekindled. If you're a husband watching this video, ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened to your wife? When was the last time you showed her appreciation, not just as your partner, but as a person? And if you're a wife feeling disconnected, is there still space to rebuild that connection? Marriage is not about reaching a destination. It is about continually choosing each other. Even when the years have changed you, it's about making the small efforts that say, I still see you. I still appreciate you. You still matter to me. If you take only one thing from this video, let it be this: love does not fade with age. It fades when we stop nurturing it. If you want to keep your relationship alive in your later years, it is never too late to start. Choose love, choose understanding, and most importantly, choose each other. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Take care of yourself and your relationships. They're the greatest treasures in life.